Good morning. I want to bring you an overview of the situation in Syria. It's an overview that comes from a church. However, the vast majority of Christians in Syria share this view. As you might know, the Syrian Arab Spring started in 2011 with people demanding reform and democracy in the country. Since then, the cry for freedom turned into many phases of bloody war, religious jihad, terrorism, destruction of public and private sectors, interventions of regional and superpowers, fragmentation of Syria into different zones controlled by several factions. Since the war started, the Syrian pound lost its value against the dollar more than 45 times. 83% of the population is living under the poverty line. The average Syrian lives today with 20 to 40 US dollars a month. People who decided to stay in the country when floods were leaving to Western or neighboring countries. Today, they are regretting that decision and they look for a chance to leave. 2 weeks ago, Turkey stopped pumping drinking water into the Hasaki area in the northeast. 1 million people are affected by this act. No international pressure was put on Turkey to stop such aggressive action practiced against civilians. Although this is not a government-controlled area, Americans who are allied with both the Kurds and Turks are watching there. How can someone convince the ordinary Syrian people that the free, democratic United States cares when they see such a double-standard politics in dealing with the civilian well-being? Today, Caesar Act imposes a new equation on the Syrian crisis. It aims at increasing the political isolation of the regime, but in fact, it is increasing the hardships on the civilians. Past world experience of similar sanctions shows that sanctions don't succeed in overthrowing anti-Western regimes. The blockade on Cuba in 1959 is an example. Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Venezuela Chavez, also North Korea, Libya, Iran. It's a joke. Sanction is a joke for the rulers and misery for civilians. It will be the same for Syria, especially that American officials openly say that Washington is not about to topple the Assad regime. They only want the regime to enhance its behavior. Unfortunately, the Caesar Act only makes the Syrian people suffer more and lead them not only to starve but also to die. Millions of people, including children, are suffering from a lack of health care and joblessness and daily living crisis. COVID-19 has already killed a lot of people. The PCR test is only available in Damascus. People are left to their luck and to their individual immunity system. Syria is devastated and no soon solution to end the war. Let nobody convince you that the solution is in the hand of the Syrian people or even the regime. When I listen to experts and journalists talking about Syria and each one analyzes according to his or her political point of view, with all my respect, many of them sound naive and theoretical. We have been living with our people all through the 9 years of war. It's not that simple to lay the whole crisis on the regime or the opposition or even ISIS. Syria is part of the troubled Middle East. It has a sensitive geopolitical location. And I have many reasons to tell you about that. First, geopolitics made eastern Syria a current conflict knob between world powers like the US, Russia, Turkey and Iran. And this is why Americans are there. Second, Syria rates number 43 among 208 countries of the proven natural gas reserve, and number 30 of the proven oil reserve. Third, Syria after the war has a reconstruction bill of more than $400 billion. This would move the appetite of many regional and international countries in East and West. 4. The long history of Syrian policy in opposing US policy in the region is sufficient by itself to bring pressure and problems inside Syria. And 5th, it becomes obvious that the solution of the Arab-Israeli long conflict would be easier to deal with if Syria is weak and destroyed economically and militarily. As you can see, that Pax Romana already started by the United Emirates and Israel normalizing their relationship. More countries are coming also. However, we as the church people, we want peace to be Pax Christi, not Pax Romana. In short, and with all respect to many political analysts who informs the Western media about the Syrian crisis, the issue is much more than one leader or a regime or even human rights and democracy. How come that lack of human rights and lot of dictatorship in Saudi Arabia don't raise any issue for the American administration? How come that Trump went into serious negotiation with the Taliban to ensure their political role in Afghanistan? All Syrian people want a better Syria, with a Syria with more civil liberties, more democracy, less corruption, and more human rights. However, we cannot destroy a country by using those components as a slogan to cover up selfish economic and political interests. I love American people. I love American people's lifestyle. I was educated there. And I love the American people and the American churches and their civil society. But we have to tell the truth about how we feel and how we experience the American and other superpower politics in the region. We also cannot breathe, and we need to be outspoken about this. While the people and civil society and churches in the West care a lot about the suffering of the civilians in Syria, regional and empire governments are not in a hurry to stop the ongoing misery. Today, Russia and the United States are the main two players who can stop this ugly war and bring again stability to Syria. Unfortunately, we still need to wait. Thank you.